Alright, so the first thing you're going to do is check for effusion. So we're going to increase our depth. Actually, before that, let's kind of optimize our image. Alright, we checked for effusion, acquire that. Bring your image back. And acquire that. Okay, just fix this. Our heart rate's a little fast, so you're going to see it jumping a little bit. Okay, and now we're going to freeze it. And we're going to do our 2D measurements for the ejection fraction. We go to end diastole, the end of the R wave here, and you'll notice that both the mitral valve and aortic valve are closed. Go to analysis, and all points is start with your RVID, right ventricular inner dimension diastole, and you're going to try to go right beyond the mitral valve leaflets and just go straight up so that you can have one straight line going down. So RVID is there, IVS, left ventricle, and posterior wall there. And acquire that. You'll send it over to end systole and measure the left ventricular inner dimension in systole to there. And then with caliper, measure your left atrium in the same image, like so. Acquire that. I'm going to zoom in on my mitral valve. Acquire that. Add your color and acquire that. Then you're going to zoom in on the aortic valve and acquire that. Oops. Patient's breathing, so of course it's going to kind of come in and out. Add your color, acquire that, and then you're going to freeze your image and scroll over to mid systole and do your LVOT diameter. So go back to all points, LVOT diameter right here, and your aortic annulus with calipers right over here, and store that. Now your aortic measurements, the sinus of Valsalva, ST junction, and ascending aorta, I like to try to go up one intercostal space to really lengthen it. We'll see what we can do with this patient, and we can. So now you can see, we can really see the ascending aorta there. I'm going to acquire that and then freeze it. Go to end diastole, and you're going to measure all in calipers, leading edge to leading edge, your sinus of Valsalva, like so, your ST junction here, and your ascending aorta as high as you can go there. Fix your depth again. Okay, now I'm going to do my M modes. We'll do the aortic valve first. Okay. And we're going to measure our aortic root and diastole, leading edge to leading edge there. Your left atrium and systole, leading edge to leading edge. And then your aortic valve cusp separation, just those two little corners right there, like so. Acquire that. Then you're going to do your mitral valve M mode. Breathe in, Savannah, and then breathe all the way out. Okay, hold your breath there, don't breathe. And breathe. You're going to go to mitral valve, your mitral valve EPSS, and measure your septum to your anterior mitral valve leaflet and acquire that. We'll measure your left ventricle. Hold your breath, Savannah, don't breathe. Oh, no, go in, breathe out. Okay, hold your breath. Okay, breathe. And then
I was doing it too. I'm like,
yeah, I do it too. You're going to measure your RVID again. Pretty much everything that you just measured in 2D, you're going to do it again in the M mode. Typically, in the long axis, you're only going to do one EF. So either you'll measure it in 2D or you'll measure it in EF. Your protocol, we're just teaching you different ways of doing it. Your lab exams, you'll do your EFs in 2D, but for your senior exit protocol, you're going to do them in M mode. So we'll go to end diastole again and measure your right ventricle from there to there, your IVS, left ventricle and posterior wall there, and then your IVS and systole right over here. There's your IVS and your left ventricle here, and the posterior wall there. Okay. All right. Now we're going to go to RVOT. Now that we've done everything along axis, we're going to go to RVOT. Go. All right. So now we're in RVOT. We're going to acquire that in 2D. Add color. You do pulse wave in your RVOT. Okay, don't breathe so bad, hold it. Okay, and then we're going to trace the RVOT. And do a caliper. And then store that. And you'll notice that we are in systole on the EKG. And then we're going to do continuous wave. So breathe all the way in, Savannah. And then breathe all the way out. Okay, hold it right there. Okay, and then you're going to go to pulmonic valve and do your PVVTI. And your end diastolic velocity right there. And store that. Then you're going to go to RVIT. Store that in 2D. Add your color. Store that. And continuous wave. Okay. And then you're going to go to tricuspid valve. Do your TRV max and just measure that like so there. I'm going to acquire that. The short axis is pretty much RVOT and RVIT, just the same thing over again. So we're going to go to our short axis there. Okay, and store that. I'm going to zoom on the aortic valve. Oops. Confirm that you can see all three cusps neatly. Store that. Add your color. Store that. Now you're going to zoom on the RVOT. Store that. Add your color again. Store that. And then do pulse wave in the RVOT. Okay. And you're going to trace and caliper again. And store that. And then you'll do continuous wave again. I like to just fix my scale so I can clearly see what I'm looking at. Okay, hold your breath. Okay, breathe all the way in, and then breathe all the way out. Okay, hold it right there. Don't breathe. Hold it. Okay, breathe. And you're going to do your PVVTI and your end diastolic velocity right there, and start it. While you're here, you're going to freeze your image and go to end diastole, and with calipers you're going to measure your RVOT here, proximal, and your distal RVOT from there to there, and store that. Now you're going to zoom on the RVIT and store that. Add color on the tricuspid valve and continuous wave. Okay, and we're just going to do our TRV max, just like so. Okay, now you're just going to go to the mitral level. Store that in 2D. Add your color. Apply that. Take your color off. Then go to papillary. And apex. Okay. You're going to store that, the full 4-chamber view. Then you're going to zoom in on your left ventricle and store that. Okay. And you're going to freeze that. Go to end diastole, and we're going to do our ejection fraction. So we're going to go to EF and volume, go to Simpsons, your apical 4-chamber and diastole. Like so, store that. And then you're going to scroll over to end systole and apical 4-chamber again, like so, and store that. So now we know that what the patient's EF is. If it's over 40%, we may or may not have diastolic dysfunction. If it's less than 40%, we know we're going to have diastolic dysfunction. So then we're going to take a look at our mitral valve and determine what we have there. So I'm going to zoom out of that, and I'm going to do my mitral valve inflow. Just want to make sure that my cursors are parallel. Okay, freeze that. We're going to go to mitral valve. We're going to measure our peak E velocity there, our peak A velocity. Now we measured our EA ratio, it's 1.1, so we know that that's normal. Okay, so now we have 2 parameters that we know that are okay. Good EF, good EA ratio. We're going to do our deceleration time. We're going to measure from the E wave down to the baseline. And it's perfect. Okay, there's no restrictive pattern. It's not less than 160, so that's fine. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to zoom in over the mitral valve and left atrium, and we're going to do a lot of measurements here. So we're going to store that. We're going to, so here we just looked at the mitral valve. We can make sure that there's no MAC, that there's no hockey stick appearance, that there's no vegetation, that it's looking okay. Now we're going to add color and check for regurgitation. We have just a tiny little bit, so we're going to store that. And then we're going to do continuous wave. Okay, so we've got a little bit of MR. We're just going to do, I don't think we have MR Vmax. We don't, so we'll just do a caliper. And then we're going to lower our baseline, and we're going to do our pressure halftime from there to there. And it's normal, and store that. Actually, before I do the left atrial volume, let's do our tissue Doppler. We're going to put our cursor there at the annulus, and we're going to hit TDI.
Wow.
And then we're going to do pulse wave.
It's like a rave.
Reminds me of Coachella.
Okay. And then I do want to make sure that we're clearly in that annulus. Do it again. There we go. Okay, and we're going to go to TDI, measure your E to E prime, and that is our lateral E prime velocity. And we measure that, and it's 4.3, so it's less than 8. That's normal as well. Okay. Oops. Do it again. Okay. Okay, so we're going to take tissue Doppler off. Let's measure our left atrium. Go to end systole, and we're just going to trace in here from one annulus all the way around to the other annulus, and let the machine seal that off there and store that. While I'm here, I'm going to do color on my pulmonary veins. I'm going to store that, and I see that nice red flow coming from the pulmonary veins there. I'm going to do pulse wave. Okay, and then just store that. Okay, so we did everything on the left side. Now let's go over to our right side. we're going to zoom in on the right side so the physician knows that now we're on the right side. Store that. Going to freeze it and go to end diastole. Okay, and we're going to do just calipers, your RV base, there to there, RV mid, and RV length. I'm going to take that off and I'm going to trace that area. We're going to do TAPSE, so M mode on the annulus there. This should be greater than 17. The flatter it is, the worse severe the RV function is. So hers looks pretty good. So we're just going to do, go to tricuspid valve, do TAPSE, and we're going to measure from here. Let's do this one. Up to here, and that's 2.8, that's fine. Now we're going to do pulse wave on our mitral valve. So we don't have the calculation package for the tricuspid valve, so there's nothing to measure. We're just going to take a picture of it. The GE does have a calculation package, so if you have it, then you would do the same thing as a mitral valve. You'll do the E and the A and the deceleration time. So now that I'm here, I'm going to zoom in on the right atrium. Store that. Okay, so we're going to check for tricuspid regurgitation, do continuous wave in that blue jet there. Do TRV max, and then store that. I'm going to go to end systole and do my right atrial volume. Right atrial volume. Store that. All right, so now that we did everything in the 4 chamber, we are going to add color flow on our septums. Store that. Store that. All right, now we're going to go to the 5 chamber. Okay, so we're in 5 chamber here. Store that. You're going to zoom in on your aortic valve. Lean back a tiny bit. Yeah. Down here, and I want to try to straighten that out as much as possible. So store that. We're going to do pulse wave in the LVOT. Okay, go to aortic valve, to your LVOT VTI. Store that. Then you can do continuous wave on the aortic valve. And do your aortic valve VTI. So we're going to do AV VTI. Okay, and store that. We're going to do color Doppler. Check for regurgitation. We didn't see anything on the continuous wave. I don't see anything here, so just store that. All right, we're done there. I'm going to go to chamber. Store that. Zoom in on your left ventricle. Store that. Same thing as before, we're going to do our EF. So go to end diastole. And Simpson's A2, apical 2 chamber diastole. That. And then go to systole and do it again. Store that. We're going to zoom in down here on the mitral valve and left atrium. Stir that. Add color on your mitral valve. Stir that. Continuous wave. Okay. Do a caliper on the MR. And then do your pressure half time again. Stir that. And then do your left atrium and end systole again. Stir that. We go to 3-chamber. Stir that. We're going to add color on our aortic valve and on our mitral valve. That's it. You can go to the subcostal. Have you lay flat. Okay, go ahead and take a really deep breath. Hold it right there. Hold it, hold it, hold it. Stir that. Okay, breathe out. Okay, now breathe in again. Deep breath. Hold it right there. Hold it, hold it. Stir that. Okay, breathe out. And then we're going to add color on the septum. You can barely see in here. All right, breathe in one more time. Really deep breath. There it is, right there. Hold it. Hold it, hold it. Okay, breathe out.
Damn, that's hard.
Okay, and then we're going to go to our IVC and just breathe normal. Bring your knees up.
Yeah, that's right.
And then we're going to do end mode on the IVC. That's good enough. And we're going to measure it at its widest point and where it collapses. And check our collapsibility for the 3-15 method, right? Ah, hold on. Do it again. Okay. You can add some color on the hepatic veins. Looks okay. All right, let's do super strong. Okay. Stir that in 2D. Add your color Doppler. Stir that pulse wave. Okay, do a caliper. Let's do her ascending. We want that red flow there. And then do pulse wave. And this one should be above the baseline. And caliper there. And that's it. That's your whole protocol.